Hey everybody, how is it going? It is January 24th. This is the RambleCast, and I'm your host, Cody Toombs. With me, I have Corbin Davenport.
Hello.
So, bet y'all can't guess what we're gonna talk about. Uh, Wait, what are we talking about?
I can't.
Crap, we're
I
screwed.
don't know why I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm kind of at a loss too. But
Talking
hey,
about Marvel movies again?
ooh, good idea. Let's talk about Marvel's biggest bomb in the box office. You know, the reason why they're making less money than normal. I wish I could be in that position where even when I screw up and put out something that nobody watches, I still get richer. That sounds awesome.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Let's do that.
Gotta respect it. I helped. I saw the Marvels in theaters. I'm part of the problem.
Uh, I'd say part of the part of the problem is that you keep talking about Eternals as if that was a good one. Anyway, sorry, I'm not gonna stop beating up on that movie. It was so bad. I know other people disagree, and I feel sorry for them. Anyway, no, we actually do have a couple of topics, one or two, and then some after that. Uh, but let's start with a good old classic, one of the longest running pieces of software in the world at this stage. At least it certainly feels that way. Wine. There's new wine. It has improved with age even.
Yes. Wine is the compatibility layer for Windows applications. It runs on basically every Unix-like thing. It's mainly used on Linux, but it does also work on Mac, and there's Android ports and Chrome OS through the Linux layer. And there's even like an experimental port for like Haiku, that operating system, because it's like just barely Unix compatible enough. It's pretty cool. But yeah, so Wine 9.0 was released this month. It was in development for a year. It has over 7,000 individual changes. So this is a big chungus release of Wine. And
A full barrel, you might say.
yeah, a lot of wine. The Probably the biggest change in this release is that Wine now has an equivalent to Windows's WoW 64 mode. So 64-bit Windows operating systems have a layer in them called Windows on Windows 64, which lets them run 32-bit software so they can stay backwards compatible. Wine didn't really have anything like that. I think there was like an experimental layer or something. Otherwise, you had to run so the alternative was running like a 32-bit Wine environment inside Wine, which needed like your system to support 32-bit software, which macOS does not anymore, and increasingly other operating systems would like to stop doing that. So now that's fully built in. I don't really know what crossover on Mac was doing this whole time. I think maybe like an experimental version of this or something, because crossover on Mac can run 32-bit Windows software, even though Mac does not support 32-bit native executables at all. So I'm not entirely sure what they were doing there, but now that's like in normal Wine, so everything can benefit from it. So that's nice.
Yay.
There's also experimental support for Wayland Compositor on Linux. So the Linux ecosystem is still trying to get away from X11. It's almost there. And Wine was still running in X11 this whole time, but now it doesn't have to. There's an experimental mode for Wayland. The big thing there is that if you have a Linux computer that's like high DPI, you definitely want to use Wayland as much as possible, and apps that are built for it, because those handle scaling significantly better. So now that Wine has this, it makes scaling on those apps a lot better. So just a lot of things, and also like touchpad gestures and Windows work better. So good stuff there. There's more work on Wine on 64-bit ARM chips, including like you can plug in a external like translation layer, so you can run x86 Windows software on a ARM device that's 64-bit. That's not like fully baked into Wine, but that's pretty cool. I know Crossover on Mac was just using the Rosetta layer that Apple made for that purpose, but you don't get that on, if you have just a normal PC with Linux or whatever. So that's pretty cool.
So we aren't too far away from being able to run 32-bit Windows apps on a 64-bit ARM chip.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where probably some like classic Windows games might work on like an Android tablet pretty easily.
Oh boy, here comes SimCity.
It's pretty cool. So a lot of cool stuff. It's got better direct 3D support. It's got better integration with like when a Windows app tries to open a URL, it'll open in like your main computer's web browser, that kind of stuff. There's a dark theme in there now. Just a lot of small things that are pretty good. So Wine 9.0 is out, but because of how this, I don't really know how many people are just using like Wine by itself. It's usually packaged in some kind of front end, whether that's like Crossover on Mac, or I think it's Lutris on Linux. It's really popular for games. There's a couple other, front ends like that. So those have all got to be updated to use this, and that might take another couple months or whatever. And also unclear when Valve will update its Proton compatibility layer to use this, because that's the main, like, one of the big uses for Wine right now is Valve is using it to run Windows games on Linux and the Steam Deck. Throat's being annoying today. So hopefully that gets updated soon. Whenever that does happen, should get better Windows compatibility, and good stuff. I do like the Wine project a lot. This is definitely like one of the most like impressive open source software projects ever, in my opinion. It's definitely up there with like the Linux kernel and maybe like LibreOffice. Like those kinds of projects have just been around for forever, and they're still going and still pretty good at what they do. So,
I wish I had more to say on this, but I literally just have a bunch of like puns and play on words that I want to make, and I'm resisting. I am resisting really hard. But no, this certainly is cool. Having spent so many years, like when I first switched to Mac, the notion of being able to run Windows software on a Mac was literally just, you have to run it in a VM or dual boot or something like that. Obviously you could use Wine, but it was horrible back then. Wine really did not work well on Mac. It worked passably on Linux. So yeah, they've made a lot of progress. Obviously there's still, an endless supply of different complications they have to try to overcome, but hey, it keeps getting better. So
yeah, it's definitely never going to be perfect. It's just going to be like perpetually behind Windows, because that's how this works. But I will say Valve dumping money and resources into this is helping a lot. And what's also going to help a lot, I'm thinking, is one thing that really benefited Wine for the past like decade or so was the fact that everyone kept Windows 7 compatibility for too long.
yeah.
So Wine was able to basically with like XP before that, like this just keeps happening. So Wine was able to target like this is the first release where Windows 7 is not the default, like what it reports as the operating system. You can change that obviously, but that's what the default is. Um, so because everything had to support Windows 7 for forever, Wine could focus on like mostly just duplicating Windows 7 APIs and getting that down along with DirectX stuff. And now Wine 9.0 is the first one that sets Windows 10 as the default reported OS. And it seems like Windows 10 is also going to be around for far longer than it should, especially with Microsoft not, going to support it for more than another like year and a half, I think. It dies in like October 2025, so I guess a little under 2 years. So yeah, seems like Microsoft continuing to fuck up is really, really helping the Wine project. So that's nice.
Oh, well, hey, as long as it works, I suppose.
Yep. As long as Valve keeps wanting to sell Steam Decks, Wine will keep getting dramatically better year over year.
Oh, it's not just Valve at this point.
It's not just Valve. It's like Valve and
Crossover.
Code Weavers have like shared
Yeah.
custody of Wine. Yeah, that's basically just them.
Yeah, that's true. But hey, it is still good for the world in whatever capacity it can be. So yeah, let's see. Also, kind of good for the world. Mozilla has done a thing. I'll let you just explain this one because I don't know jack about this.
Okay. So Mozilla published a I guess the technical term is issue tracker. It's kind of just like a big page called Platform Tilt. And they explain this as technical issues in major software platforms which disadvantage Firefox relative to the first party browser. So basically, Mozilla is looking at, okay, what benefits does like Safari on an iPhone get that we can't do on iPhone? And like, what does Edge on Windows get that Firefox can't easily get, or puts Firefox at a disadvantage? And in theory, these apply to all third-party web browsers, but obviously this is Mozilla, so they're focusing on Firefox. And this is kind of interesting because they're sort of organizing all the issues with like missing functionality and like the kind of aggressive like changing of the default browsers that some of these platforms do. So the most issues they have here is with Apple. Perhaps unsurprisingly, because they mentioned that Apple doesn't let them put third-party browser engines in the App Store. So Firefox for iPhone and iPad are just wrappers around Safari. They're good wrappers. I have it on my phone, but they are they can never be faster or more secure or functionally different than Safari. They can just like sync with your Firefox stuff and look a little bit different.
To be fair, that's a pretty big issue. Like
that's a big issue.
That one issue could almost really encompass like a whole separate tracker in its significance. But yeah.
And they list some other stuff around that, like there's no multi-process applications on iOS. There's no just-in-time compilation on iOS. The accessibility APIs aren't great. They mentioned that like setting and checking the default web browser on iOS is like kind of difficult. But yeah, that and also they can't put browser extensions in iOS because that's executing someone else's code, and also there's no browser engine to run them in. So they have the most beef with Apple, but they also have 3 issues each for Google and Microsoft. In terms of Google, they mentioned that they can't import browser data from other browsers on Android, which like I hadn't actually ever thought of before, but I guess that's a good point. Because like if you have a computer, you can obviously like have Chrome on there and then open Firefox, and it can pull it from the computer's copy of Chrome. But like if your only computer is an Android phone, then yeah, that's probably gonna like make you think twice about completely switching browsers, maybe.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of argue with them a little bit on this one because, strictly speaking, this is, yeah, they're saying disadvantages Firefox relative to the first-party browser. As far as I'm aware, Google Chrome on Android cannot do that either.
Right.
So
Right, they don't have a import.
Yeah, this is a limitation for everyone. So it's
like Android as a whole, yeah.
Yeah. No browser on Android is harvesting data, with the notable exception, I will grant this, Chrome can steal from Chrome Beta, can steal from Chrome Canary, like they can share data. But
right, because it's in the it's like reading your like logged in accounts. Right, that's how that works on Android, I think.
That, and actually I think very genuinely I think they wrote it into their code so that they can harvest or they can pull from each other. But
right.
Yeah, no browser can steal from a different browser on Android. So I'm just saying, like, this is it's not, that one's not disenfranchising third-party browsers. They're all playing on equal field on that particular issue. So it's a little, that one's a little disingenuous, but you know.
And on Android, you could definitely like, if there was someone making them do this, I can imagine it'd probably be easy on Android to have like an external store for like that kind of stuff. And then if you download another browser, they could be like, hey, can we access this other app's, external storage thing to sync everything? That probably be pretty easy, but it's not in Google's best interest or anyone else. So
yeah.
But
browsers on Android, with the exception of obviously like the system browser, so to speak, browsers on Android really do play by the rules of every app.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's far more containerized than Windows.
Yeah. In that sense, and obviously the same could kind of be argued for iOS, though obviously iOS is a whole different beast. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's almost not an issue because they all just have to play by the same rules. And they're playing by the same rules as every app. So it's the way the platform's supposed to work.
Yeah.
But I will agree, switching browsers in that instance does become unwieldy.
Yeah. And they also mention some Android features will always open Chrome instead of the user's default browser. I actually don't know what examples I'm going to click on the GitHub link. Features like Google Search or Discover in the pre-installed Google application ignore the default browser choice. Okay, so they're talking about like Google apps using like the internal browser thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, like when Discover's like right on the home screen, it's a little bit hard to argue that like it isn't like a platform thing.
Yeah.
That's not really a beef with like, if Facebook wants to have an internal browser, it's like, oh, sure, whatever, I don't care. But
yeah. So maybe some of their issues with Google and Android are not entirely legitimate, but
the third one is pretty fair. They mentioned that when you pull up Google search on Chrome or like Chromium browser on Android, it gives you like the full regular like mobile Google experience, like pretty close to what the Android app looks like. But when you do it in Firefox, Google gives you the pretty old mobile search layout that isn't like as detailed. Which, that's just, I think I remember having an extension on Firefox for Android at one point that like changed the user agent for that, so it would give me the full one. So again, that's just Google being shitty. Like,
Yeah.
pretty sure Firefox can load that. I think it's okay.
Yeah, and actually, it also almost kind of worth calling out. That's also not a. It's not actually a platform detriment or disadvantaging, because Firefox could just cheat and get that page anyway. Nothing about the platform's APIs are doing this to Firefox. This is just something Google is doing in general.
Yeah, they Firefox does cheat with a lot of websites. There is a fun thing. I'll put it in the YouTube chat if anyone wants to go check it out. Mozilla has a project called Web Compat, where they take reports for websites not working in Firefox, either like there's a Firefox bug or the site just like completely blocks you if you're using Firefox. And they'll try to work with the website. You know, they'll try to reach out and be like, hey, why is it this way? And when they don't, like, when the site doesn't really want to work with them, they just do user agent overrides for that site. And that's what ships in Firefox. So that's why a lot of websites work better in Firefox than maybe they did a couple years ago. It's because they're doing overrides for a lot of stuff. Google's dominance is great. No problems here. Normal things. And then they have 3 beefs with Microsoft, which all seem pretty fair. I think, like, honestly, if I, before I'd open this page, if I had to guess, like, who does Mozilla have the most issues with, I probably would have assumed Windows.
I still would have guessed Apple.
Yeah, I mean, because, like, if I think about it for long enough, like, yeah, Apple is, I guess I think more in terms of, like, the computer part, but yeah.
See, that's kind of the thing. Is in a lot of ways, I expected this to be broken down by OS, not by whole company, because by far I expected Apple to be the worst offender. But I figured most of it would I figured a lot of it was going to come down to each OS, and I figured Windows would individually have more problems on its own than Mac OS or iOS individually, but combine them and Apple becomes the worst, was my assumption.
Yeah, and so their beef with Microsoft is number one, setting the default browser on Windows is a pain. And, I certainly know every time I go, change it on my computer and I go to, 3 layers of settings, and then finally I get to the little drop down menu with my web browsers, and, the one for Edge is like styled differently and says like, this is the one we recommend. It's no, I don't want that.
I wonder what their program managers are like at Microsoft when they're sitting there telling a developer, what we'd like you to do is make it look like this, and the developer's got to be sitting there like, are you sure? You're sure we want this very obvious thing right here, and then all the others are going to be listed like this down here? Are you sure? You don't think anyone's going to criticize this? Just asking. Don't. Okay, if that's what you want.
And the developers like go home and they're like, man, you see this shit I had to make today? Like, this is the dumbest. Like, I hate this, but
frankly, I'm convinced that most Microsoft engineers go through that.
Probably.
I've known several who I've been friends with many of them. Believe me, there are plenty that do go through that every day.
Yeah, and they Mozilla does say that apparently Windows doesn't support like a way to set itself as a default web browser, like for the app to do that, which I would agree that's a good thing, because I don't want like a random app changing my default browser setting without me knowing. But they do mention that
set itself, but it can request that, and doesn't the OS just pop up a prompt
it has to
saying,
open Yeah, it has to open it can call the settings app
Oh,
and
well,
like
yeah, okay.
where that menu is. So yeah,
Yeah, it shouldn't be able to
but
set itself. It used to be able to do that. Like that
yeah,
used to be a feature in Windows, for feature air quote, where browsers could set themselves. Like they're supposed to prompt the user, "Hey, would you like us to be the default?" If you click yes, then they just call an API and they're the default. Yeah,
yeah,
that went away because
um,
it was a terrible.
yeah. So Mozilla's issue in this GitHub comment is more like it needs to not take several more clicks in this process in opening the settings app, or like, it'd be kind of nice if we could request the prompt and then Windows just shows a like, do you want to do this, yes or no? um seems to be what they're going for. But their other issue is same thing as Android, where several features in Windows will just always open Edge. This has like been a complaint for years. Microsoft is now forced not to do that in the European Union. Of course, we don't have anything like that over here. So if you click on like anything in the start menu, anything in the widget panel, a lot of the like help buttons and stuff, that all just opens in Edge. Oh, hi Carson. Carson's in the chat, and Diablo.
Yes,
Hello.
hello to both of you.
And then their other complaint is, oh, I'm sorry, I read that out of order. So the other one is, uh, Windows likes to reset the default web browser to Edge. And they
Yeah, that's a
mentioned
big
that. Yeah, like if Windows does like a big update and they bring up the like full screen prompt that's like, hey, do you want to finish setting up Windows? And if you like click continue because you're like, sure, I guess, that's when it wreaks havoc. So good stuff. And Austin's in the chat. Hi, Austin.
Hey, Austin.
So yeah, those are all of Mozilla's complaints, and this will probably keep getting updated. And I imagine this will probably be what Mozilla points to whenever there's more antitrust hearings against like any of these big companies. Mozilla can go, yeah, just look at this nice webpage we made showing how mean they're being to other web browsers.
Yeah, it is nice of them to build their own database of here's why we think everybody else is treating us unfairly.
Yeah, and they
Sometimes
published
they're right.
Yeah, they published a blog post along with this that was kind of short, but it was basically like, here's what this page is. Also, we encourage other web browsers to make their own.
Well, I'm gonna change the order of this a little bit. Speaking of other web browsers who might have a complaint here or there, let's talk about Opera, but not in the way that you'd think. Corbin wrote a thing.
I did. I hyper focused for too long yesterday and wrote half of this, and then I wrote the other half out later. But I basically just wrote an article outlining like everything wrong with Opera, the web browser, because they've gotten in the press a couple times for like isolated incidents, and then also when I was researching other stuff, like every 10 minutes I found something else that they did. So yeah, basically, Opera has been around since like 1995, and they tried to, I didn't know this, they tried to go public in like the early 2000s on the stock exchange. They didn't end up doing that. And they kind of just were always third or fourth player in the browser market because they were paid software for a while, and then they switched to ad supported, and then they eventually did just what like Firefox does, where they're a free browser and Google sustains them basically. And then in 2016, Opera sold the Opera name, the web browser, and almost everything else Opera related to a group of companies in China for $600 million. So that's the group that's like been Opera since then, basically. And there's a couple big things that have gone wrong since then. Um, the big one was in 2020 when Hindenburg Research did a big report about them. Hindenburg being a like market research shorting firm, where basically they do research on companies they think are shady, and if they find that they're very shady, they buy a bunch of stock and short it, and then release the report so they make money when the stock goes down. So like they're not they're not like an independent party or anything, but like I don't think they're lying. And I yeah, so
That said, that is an incredibly shady business practice.
it's very shady, but like I don't think they've ever been like proven wrong, and like there's a lot of money on the line, so I would imagine they don't want to be. But they did a big investigation in Opera. A lot of it's like corporate management stuff that I don't care about. But what did make the news back then was the reveal that Opera owns a bunch of loan apps in where did I put the countries? It was like I think it was Kenya, India, and somewhere else. Nigeria, yes. So yeah, they had apps in there, and the Google Play Store had rules for financial apps where if they offered loans, they had to be like under a certain amount of interest, and the repayment time had to be a certain length. Opera was breaking all of those. They were like very high interest rate loans, and it wasn't really clear that they were until you got like pretty far into the like app process inside the app. And at least one of the apps actually like copied your phone's contacts, and then someone would send like text to the people in your contacts if you were late on repayments. So that's pretty shitty. And
Only breaking like 17 laws in the
yeah.
US. Granted, I'm
pretty
sure they're
cool.
not targeting US at all, but
No, I think that they were only in those countries.
yeah.
But I remember this happening at the time because I wrote about it at Android Police, and that was when I like stopped using anything Opera related. But I didn't fully know like the full response. I was curious like what they did afterward. So their immediate response, which I did remember, was what they told investors, where they were like they said, quote, "The report contains numerous errors, unsubstantiated statements, and misleading conclusions and interpretations regarding the business of and events relating to the company." Didn't mention.
Were these
specific...
Trump lawyers that wrote that?
Yeah, I know. Just like this says nothing, guys. Like not disputing anything individually. So like and then also around that time they like published a blog post about like why the loan apps are helpful, and it's because like people in Kenya like don't have bank accounts. It's like, no, that wasn't the issue. Like, okay, great job, guys. And I was looking around for like, did they ever like actually dispute anything in this? So I went to their financial, like their investors website, and I did see in the financial report for like the quarter that happened after this came out, which was quarter 4 2019, they did list like some disputed like actual issues. So I was like, okay, this is something. Some of it was like related to like their like cash flow and business stuff, which again, I'm not like a business finance person, so I'm not gonna like try to read that and see if who's true or not. But they did have 2 out of the 4 things they listed were very stupid. The first thing they said was that their apps had high average ratings in the Google Play Store, which doesn't mean anything.
No.
Like, it could mean maybe they didn't scam some people, or they bought positive reviews, or probably a mix of both, is what I would assume.
Even just sending company employees to give positive reviews,
Yeah, and like
kind of like a lot of
buying,
companies do on Glassdoor.
yeah, and like there's such a huge market for buying positive Play Store reviews. Like that is just so easy to do if you have money. Um, and then I really like their other like bullet point, which said that so listen closely and you can figure out where the bullshit is. Um, the short report states that Opera's browser business has lost market share since the IPO, IPO being in like 2018, I think, um, but fails to recognize the fact that Opera has grown significantly, both in number of users and revenue since the IPO. That wasn't what they were disputing. They were talking about the web browser part failing, and Opera was like, "But wait, our full company's doing great." Like, yes, because you're scamming people in Kenya. It's like, guys, losing my mind over here. Um, and it's like, wow, you could really just say stuff, and that was like in their investor report. So I guess they thought like all the investors were just either didn't care, which is probably true, and also were dumb as bricks. Those two things.
I mean, any story that suggests that investors are dumb as bricks is kind of almost auto confirmed.
It's true. I have a Robinhood account. I'm pretty dumb.
I mean, I wasn't gonna say it, but
Yeah. And then the other stuff I found was I was looking into uh, basically how just opera has existed on chasing trends as much as possible, which like every tech company does,
they're a
but
low
like
key TikToker.
right, like it's like every tech company and really like every company is doing this stuff when they can, but like usually they still have something like else. Like Google is very much in like the AI stuff right now, but like Google Photos as an independent product or Google Chrome as an independent product is still like useful, and Opera's core product is not. Opera's core product is just Chrome. So in 2017, they tried releasing like Opera Next, or I'm sorry, Opera Neon, which was just like experimental design. It didn't go anywhere, and also they just kind of abandoned it after a couple months, which is that's fine. It was an experiment, except it doesn't seem like they told anyone who was using it. So I did find at least one person on Reddit in the past year who was like, guys, why is my Opera Neon not working anymore on Windows? It's like, oh no. Because like there are like 0-day security vulnerabilities found in Chromium every month. So I can only imagine how many huge security flaws are in a build of Chrome that's like 5 years old. It's not good. And they also made a completely different um, cryptocurrency browser that's just it's all that crap that no one cares about, but the crypto people really got excited for, and I'm sure investors did too. So they were trying to do that for a while, and then sure enough, in in 2022, when all this collapsed, like just the market interest in NFTs dropped to nothing, all that fun stuff. They lost interest too. Like I checked their blog, they haven't posted anything about crypto since May of last year. And the crypto browser seems to be dead. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's getting like updates anymore. Um, but they haven't like migrated people to the normal browser, so that's another like not really well supported Chromium build people have on their computers from this company. Um, so, and then the last thing I kind of talked about in here was Opera GX, which is their gaming web browser. And I think this is the closest Opera has come to having like a useful product. Just because the main selling point for this web browser was that it had a resource limiter built into it, so you could set how much like CPU and RAM the browser as a total could access. So, in theory, like your games would run better when you had a browser open and games at the same time. Kind of that's a fair idea. That's good. Um,
Okay.
Chrome and Chrome and Edge and a couple other browsers have like a version of this now. They have a memory saver feature, which just does this in the background. Like when it's running out of RAM, it'll put tabs to sleep. So this isn't really like necessary.
Yeah,
Um,
but they don't. Theirs is more of a like try to be smart feature where this is a hard limit.
yeah, I think Edge might have a hard limit setting. I'm not entirely sure, but like that's the one thing in Opera where I'm like, okay, like sure, that's I can see that how it's useful. Um, and Opera GX is definitely like their most like growing thing. There's like the Twitter account for it has like over 1 million followers because they're just doing like the Wendy's account but for gamers basically. There's a as Diablo pointed out, there is a VTuber for Opera GX, and the VTuber has it now has a plush merch, so you can have a plush of a VTuber of a web browser for gamers. I don't know if you want that, but you can get that, I guess. And
At least it's real
the
merch.
the yeah, I mean, plush. I'm sure it's like soft, probably the most useful thing with Opera branding in a while. A lot of potential uses. And the first live stream from that VTuber got like artificially inflated views because they put the embed for the Twitch stream on like one of the main start pages in the browser. So that was fun. And then also late last year they did a ad campaign with Eric Andre, where he like ran around and like was smashing computers with quote unquote boring web browsers. So basically just doing the Eric Andre show but for Opera.
Mm-hmm.
um, and part of that was they added him yelling Opera GX to the boot screen for the web browser. Uh, so basically, like jump scaring you when you open your web browser.
Oh wow.
uh, I found one. This isn't funny, but I found one person on Reddit who said they had PTSD and they did not like this.
Ooh.
It's like, yeah, like again, completely unexpected. This wasn't like an opt-in thing or anything. It's just like like imagine opening Chrome and like you get like like Five Nights at Freddy's jump scare. it's, it's not great.
I mean, to be fair, that kind of was just how it was when you opened any web browser and it would reopen all of your old tabs to YouTube videos.
Yeah. Well, at some point you asked for those YouTube videos, I guess. But
Yeah, but
um,
I think all browsers have been a little guilty of this.
yeah. So that's my that was my Opera article where I'm just like, this is a thing you can link to whenever someone says use Opera. You can just send them this article. So yeah, and basically this is the same thing as as the really long article I wrote about Brave browser with the same premise. I need to go back and update that. I don't think it's gotten worse, but there's probably more stuff I could add to it.
Oh, I imagine.
I'm sure Brendan Ike's up to something.
Usually is. So, that's cool. Congrats on the article. Diablo Chrome shall rule them all, unfortunately. Yep.
Yeah, I'm still using Chrome. I keep meaning to try Firefox, but like it's just a little bit weird on macOS, so I haven't been like super inclined to do that. But eventually, if Safari could just like open up the extensions, I could just use that, but they won't. It's really annoying.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Firefox works that poorly on Mac, but to be fair, I also don't use it that much. It's one of my go-tos when I don't want to use Chrome for something. So, yeah. sometimes I'll just pop open Firefox or Safari just to do the other things, whatever they are, like testing a site or making sure I'm using something that definitely does not have any cookies, you know. But that's not really saying a lot. So yeah, anyway, well, the advice is still pretty solid. Do not use Opera, do not use Brave. Next month, Corbin will take on Edge.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
I mean, I've tried to use Edge a couple times because like there are actually things in it that are useful, but unfortunately, it's also like the most user hostile piece of software I've ever used, like outside of Windows, maybe. Which is like if you have a setting that Microsoft doesn't like, it will eventually like switch to the other one.
Yeah.
Just inevitable. Like one of the things I do in Edge is I turn off all the stuff on the new tab page, so it's just blank page, and it will just eventually turn back on, or it'll bug you to turn it back on. And the only way to prevent that is by installing. I wrote an article about how to do this on How to Geeks. That's nice. Thank you for giving me content ideas, Microsoft. But you can install, Chrome extensions can set a custom new tab page. So there are a couple for Edge that do that.
It occurs to me after that I had said it. You already did a Don't Use Internet Explorer podcast, basically. And I would argue that kind of extended into Edge. So, strictly speaking, you've already taken care of the Don't Use Edge in another media format. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to find new browsers to pick on. Is Safari? Should we pick on Safari?
I want to use Safari, so I'm not gonna pick.
Okay. All right. Well, that said, what can we do but talk about Chrome? That is our other browser story of today. It got 3 new generative AI features. I didn't actually get around to reading this, so
wow.
Corbin,
wow,
take it away. It's almost as if I came unprepared.
I can't. I haven't recorded a podcast in like 2 months, so I'm not used to talking this long. My throat's getting dry.
This is why I started drinking tea.
Gotta open this blog post. Where is it? Here it is.
Yes, ask the generative AI to summarize the article for us. It's actually
gonna get ChatGPT to read this.
Actually, that could make a funny segment. We should find articles that are just weirdly complicated and see what ChatGPT can make of them.
So Google announced the first generative AI powered features in Chrome because, of course, they have to do this. Because once again, this is the hype cycle. Probably useful things you can do with it in a web browser. I don't really know if any of these are that. The first thing is they have a menu option you can click that will try to organize all your tabs into tab groups. So Chrome has had tab groups for a long time, but you have to put the tabs in them and manage them in there. And a lot of people don't care to do that. I'm one of those people. I don't care. Don't show me the tab groups. And now there's a button where it will try to just take all your tabs you have open and put them in a named group that's like all in the same category. And I did see someone point out that this relies on all the tabs being sent to Google to do this calculation because it's in the cloud. Which isn't great, but again, if you're using Chrome, I don't think there's a way for it to not send what you're doing to Google servers. I think you just need to use Chromium or something else. They also mentioned
I'm also
um,
just gonna say, like, I get it, but I really don't want them in tab groups. I want them organized by window. Like, I
hmm,
want to I obviously, that's maybe a bit nitpicky, but that's how I do things. I want the tabs that belong together to sit in the same window, and then that's it. I don't like using tab groups.
you know, what would be a good use, and I don't even know if you necessarily need any kind of AI for this, is a feature where it will over time see what tabs you keep open and tell you to use bookmarks for them, and like just make the bookmarks and just yell at you to use them. I desperately need that for almost everyone I know. Whenever I go like fix something on my brother's computer and he has like 300 Chrome tabs open, he's like, Corbin, don't close my Chrome tabs. I need those. Use bookmarks, please.
Let's see. So I currently have 197 tabs open.
I'm leaving. Goodbye.
Um. So now, granted, like 10 of them have something to do with this stream right now, but um, no, yeah, I keep a lot of stuff open because I get into the middle of researching something, have a ton of tabs open, and
I I do
I don't want
definitely
to
when I'm
leave
like,
scroll position. I've said this so many times. Bookmarks don't save your scroll position, and that 9 times out of 10 is why I actually leave stuff open.
you know, well they if they added this, they could do that.
Mm,
Sort of
not really.
in theory. Um, so Diablo said, as you type P, it brings up incognito mode automatically. See, that would be again. I don't think you need AI for that though. But
Which actually, the feature you just described also doesn't need AI.
yeah, and again, I've had my browser extension Peek, which shows like a little preview of links in your browser when you hover over them. I've been waiting for like 10 years for Chrome to copy that or some other browser. No one's tried. I'm winning. I should work at Google. Anyway, so they have that. They have a thing where it'll like make a theme for your Chrome browser based on like what you type. So like make an image and set the colors and stuff. I guess that's cool. And then they have a and then this one isn't done yet. I think they said it's coming next month. They have a thing where you can right click on a text field and it'll bring up like a Google Bard or Gmail kind of thing where you write like a prompt and it'll turn it into fully formatted paragraph.
No, there's no way that tech blogs, well, blogs in general, aren't gonna start using that. Like they would never. It's nice that they want to save the copy and paste time for somebody who isn't going to write anything original.
Yeah, I think Edge has this already. I'm pretty sure.
I think so too.
But yeah, like I guess it's helpful. I don't know. I'm not usually writing like big paragraphs in my web browser, unless it's an
I
article.
was just gonna say, wait a second, are you sure?
I don't do it outside of work hours.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's only after I type P into the Chrome. Yeah, so I guess these are fine. I don't know. I still really don't like the new Chrome design. They started rolling that out and I hate it. And I flipped the flag back on to revert to the old design. And whenever they force me to use that, I think that will be more of an incentive to switch browsers if I have not by that point already. Because it just looks weird, especially on Mac. Like when they rolled it out first time, the like fonts looked really fucked up. Like it looked like the text on like the tab titles and stuff was a little bit blurry. I don't know, just didn't look good. So I'm still on the old design.
Yeah, from what I can tell, I'm still in the old design too, and that's without changing anything. So, yeah, I guess I'm not in their rollout schedule yet. Which, ever since, ever since I was doing teardowns, I never seem to get early rollout of anything. So
You're blacklisted.
I think I still am. Yeah. I mean,
Fun.
it's been quite a while, but I think someone forgot to take me off the list or reset it or whatever. Um, Also weird that it seems to apply to Chrome as much as it applies to anything else, but I never get stuff early now that I think about it. Oh well. Um, so yeah, this is I don't know. I don't know what to think of a lot of this stuff just because some of it is gimmicks, and I actually kind of appreciate gimmicks in a little bit of a way. Like, fine, you know, I've got nothing against a company coming up with some kind of fun or quirky things, like make a theme based on a prompt. Okay, fine, whatever. Um, and I like the idea of using AI for real features, so the tab group thing is good. But in general, I don't know. I feel like this is. It feels like this is more just kind of there to be there rather than actually.
Yeah, this is like least offensive. Has to be there, basically. I think like they could do again what Opera did, which is they just put ChatGPT in the sidebar. That's it. That's what they did. And
That's all Edge did for a while.
Yeah, basically that. Yeah, but at least with what I've okay, so I've actually used the AI stuff in Edge before because that was for a while, or maybe still, the only way without spending money to let these generative AI tools analyze like documents. So I could open a PDF on my computer in Edge and then bring up the side panel and like have it, convert formats or something in it. So I have actually used that, but that's not just AI in the sidebar. That's AI in the sidebar plus like adding the context of the web page to what it can read, which is more than Opera did, as far as I know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. So, there's no real transition here, but sticking with Google as a topic, sort of. There have been leaks. Many leaks. Actually, well, okay, maybe not many leaks, but there have been a few leaks. There's a Pixel 9. We've seen it.
This is my time to get water.
Good call. So images have leaked of the Pixel 9 Pro, and presumably a Pixel 9 Pro XL, if I'm understanding the rumor correctly. So I haven't really looked over the specifics of each one. I kind of don't care that much. But the key thing is, it looks kind of like an iPhone if you merged an iPhone and like maybe a Huawei phone or the Pixel Fold. I don't know. There are various design elements that seem to be kind of getting squashed together. But the really standout point, I think, is if you ignore the camera bump itself, honestly, this just looks like an iPhone. It looks like an iPhone where instead of the Apple logo, they stuck a G. And otherwise, it just looks like an iPhone. It's got that same sort of very specific toned color back. It has the metal wraparound edge. I'm going to assume aluminum. It could be whatever. And all screen on the front with just a punch hole. So that seems to be what we're gonna see with the Pixel 9. Looking over to, of course, the camera bump. There have been plenty of discussions in Discord already, but it's a chunky beast. It looks like it's going to be one really fat camera bump. Obviously, renders sometimes overemphasize this. It may be that it won't actually be this significant. Obviously, we'll just have to see. But yeah, I mean, big camera bump. The thing is, again, we had this discussion kind of in Discord. I don't personally care. I feel like a case mostly like evens out the camera bump, so it may still be there, but by the time you throw this into a case, you're gonna kind of just, you know, make it less significant in the overall shape of the phone. And frankly, if the camera bump is valuable for some reason in terms of quality of the image production, I'm okay with that. Frankly, I'd be okay with phones that had even bigger camera bumps, as long as they're really benefiting from like each extra millimeter that you add to them. There of course is a limit, but well, as long as it doesn't get to the point of being like a point and shoot camera with like a huge camera bump, I'm probably okay with that. That said, can we get telescoping camera bumps? How cool would that be? I'm just saying. Telescoping camera bump, kind of like old point and shoots when the lens would just poke out as soon as you turned it on. I kind of want that. Anyway, so we've seen this in, oops, not that one. We've seen this now in kind of this soft blue color. We've seen black, kind of like a I guess gray slate, black, whatever. Who knows about other colors? I'm not gonna get too caught up in the color choices, but yeah, so far this seems to be a pretty safe bet for the Pixel 9. Corbin?
I mean, it's kind of interesting to see smartphones alternate between sharp edges are cool and curves are cool, and iPhone has been in the sharp edges are cool timeline for I think at least 5 years. So now that that's like pretty established, I guess just other Android OEMs are like, yeah, I guess that looks cool too. So S24 this year, I believe, had like flat sharp edges on all the models. Makes sense. Google would do that too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I really have like a preference or anything because all my phones go in cases anyway. And I don't think Google was ever doing curved displays. That's the main thing I do have a strong opinion on, is that those are stupid.
So the Pixel 6 and 7, at least a 7, does have a curved display. Well, curved edge to the display. Whether or not you want to say the display is curved, that's debatable, but the glass itself on the edges is curved.
Yeah, that's dumb.
That is...
I always hate that because as soon as there's a curve anywhere, screen protectors are just like 50 times more complicated to deal with. So I like that my iPhone screen is completely flat, and the S21 I had before that was flat. And at some point I had a OnePlus phone, and I just kept the factory screen protector on there for as long as possible because that was very, very curved screen.
Mm-hmm.
That was what OnePlus really liked doing for a while.
Yeah, I generally don't like curved screens. Every once in a while I kind of It just I can waffle a little bit if and well, I don't waffle about it. I don't like curved screens,
You
but
pancake about it.
sure. Um, but I will grant that depending on the design of the curve and the design of the case you put on it, sometimes curved screens do allow for a little easier access to the edge of the screen. That's not a big argument in favor of them, because that's really just if the case and the phone work well together, yay. But that's a real minimal thing. In general, I don't think curved screens look better. And yeah, I think
they look very cool in ads. But
I don't think they do. I mean, I think a phone with a flat, like sharp edge, I think looks just as cool in an ad.
I guess like I remember when I think maybe the first big example of this, because I can't think of an earlier one, was like the S7 Edge, or whenever that first Edge phone was, because that was like for sure it was on like one side of the screen, which in retrospect is kind of weird. But yeah, that was when they had like a touch panel along like the side, and you could like put apps and stuff on it.
Yeah,
That seemed like people thought it was kind of cool, but yeah, I think
it was novel. It was very novel.
Yeah, it was very 2015 Samsung. I'd like to see them do that again, but for not stupid ideas. Bring back the Galaxy projector. That's all I'm saying. Galaxy projector, Galaxy camera. Come on, Samsung.
Oh, the good old Pico projectors.
Yeah, and what was I saying? Oh yeah, the funny thing about what we got later, which was curved screens to make usability better, like that was an issue with the phones being so big that now we needed to like design around. It's like, guys, I know a really simple solution for this.
Yeah,
don't make the phone screens like 8 inches diagonal. Let's not do that. Oh, Milk Music. Wow, I forgot about Milk Music.
I think everyone forgot about it. Genuinely, I think everyone forgot about it before it was even dead. I don't even say that sarcastically. I remember an incident where somebody brought up Milk Music when I was writing news at AP, and I had that moment of, wait a second, didn't that die like 2 years ago? And then someone's like, no, it's still going. And suddenly like everyone spoke up like, oh no, we all thought it was dead. Who here knew it was still alive? And I think it was literally like 2 people were saying, oh yeah, we knew, we just don't use it.
Look, you gotta respect the reverse Google, right? Like everyone gets on a Google for killing things too quickly. Samsung keeps the stuff alive that you thought was already gone.
That is true.
It's like Blogger. Blogger still exists. Everyone at Google has forgotten about it, but it's still there. Actually, it's funny because a lot of Google's blogs are still Blogger, so I think they might be the only ones left using it. But
they are their own
sure hope they don't shut those down, because that's like like YouTube level amount of like lost information if that ever happens. Mostly for like the 2000s.
Honestly, I think I'm more surprised that Google hasn't sold Blogger, because they just got rid of domains. So
I think they would if
anyone would
Blogger. Well, if anyone still used it, because you need active users. So basically, Google would be like, "Hey, who wants to buy our database?"
I mean, that's not without value, but I would throw the funnier angle on this. Imagine Google being, okay, we'll sell this to you, and we will be your biggest customer.
So that's just like every government contract.
Oof, yes. Now we know how Boeing stays up. Anyway. Yeah, so, And in general, I like the look of the Pixel 9. Let's see. I think it was Diablo said that this will be the most skipped Pixel. Obviously, you're talking in recent history because let's not forget the Pixel 5 that like 7 people bought. Anyway, I don't know. I will argue let's wait and see what the cameras are like. Because once we actually know what those cameras are, and if Google pulls another one of those things like, hey, this one has an upgraded chip and it's going to be the only one that can run these 12 big features, watch as people can't wait to buy this one. We'll have to see what happens though. Anyway, so enough Pixel talk. I think we've exhausted that one. Okay, so
Actually, now that I think about it, that would be a fun article for the space bar. Is like I made a blogger blog in 2024. That'd be fun. I'll do that.
Corbin joins the I did a personal test YouTube.
Yeah. This
trend.
is the I switched to Android/iPhone, but actually interesting.
This will be like Matt Diavella's I tried something for 30 days.
Yeah.
I tried taking cold showers for 30 days. I tried I tried eating on the Hollywood diet for 30 days.
I just make my own site the experiment. Like, I switched the space bar to Blogger for 30 days. I lost all my readers. My website doesn't work anymore. Just can't send email.
And it was really hard getting the theme to work.
Yeah, David said move the space bar. Yeah, I mean, if I didn't have email, that wouldn't be that difficult. Because I could hack a lot of stuff, but the email is kind of the big thing, and also would make me sad, and I'd have to undo it afterward.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, I just got the meanest but funniest idea. It should be like we moved a existing tech blog to Blogger, and here's the experience kind of a thing, but imagine doing that with the Valnet property.
It loads faster.
Yeah, it loads faster. All of a sudden all of the writers are like, oh my god, a usable CMS. Mm-hmm. Nobody else will understand this, but
I use Blogger a lot. I had my personal blog was on Blogger for a while. My main experience with it was my Minecraft blog that I started in middle school. That was on Blogger, and eventually I did switch it to WordPress because that was around like 2014, 2015 when like Blogger was still alive, but it was definitely like Google forgot about it. And I specifically remember it didn't really fully support HTTPS. So I think if I remember, I was doing the Cloudflare proxy thing where it'll add HTTPS. I don't remember if I did that with the Minecraft blog or just my personal blog, but I definitely did it for a blogger for a while. And then eventually Google did do that because then the service would just completely break.
Yeah.
If they didn't update that. So
I've tried using Blogger, I think 3 times in history. And I don't think I've ever actually posted anything there. Each time I tried setting it up, I ran into something like, oh, here's a really core feature I just can't do. Like, I can't control this, I can't control that. Oh, I can't stick in like custom HTML to do this thing, or I can't remember if you can even put in your own custom JavaScript.
Yeah, you
Oh,
can.
can you? Do
I
you
don't
have to pay
remember
for
if
that?
no, there was. I don't think there was ever like a paid tier of blocker.
I don't know.
Um,
There was something that I remember I couldn't do, and
it
like
might have.
every time it
I
was something that just stopped me cold, and it's like, all right, forget it. I'll go
I
use something
think
else.
I think it might have stripped some stuff from the post editor, but you could put in whatever you wanted in the theme, if I remember.
Okay.
So I guess kind of like how Tumblr works now. But yeah, I don't remember exactly.
Yeah. Whatever the case, I definitely ran into stuff I couldn't do with Blogger, and it's like, okay, screw this. It's just better to go do whatever else, anything else. But yeah, well, it's weird how discussing Pixel turned into Blogger, but yeah, I'm down for it.
I have good blogger memories. Solid Google product for a while. Obviously not anymore, but
Yeah, no.
it's good for a while.
Anyway, talking about consumer products, let's talk about how apparently the PSVR 2 was just not cool enough to beat Facebook. More specifically, the Quest.
Yes.
So the Quest 2 and Quest 3 apparently outsold the PSVR 2 by huge numbers, which truthfully, I'm not sure that I really see that as being too surprising. Just because the catalog for PSVR 2 games is not huge. It's not insignificant, but it's not really big enough. And I think a lot of people may not even realize that it's a product. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but I know I don't see a lot of advertising for it.
For PSVR.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
advertising.
Sorry, I zoned out for a second. Yeah, no, I saw like leading up to like Christmas, I saw Quest ads everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure part of that was the fact that I did buy a Quest in November, so my the almighty like ad targeting algorithms knew that I was interested in that. Apparently not enough to know that I bought one, and thus do not necessarily need one. But yeah, like I saw Quest ads everywhere, and like I checked, one of the fun things to do with tech is go check the most downloaded apps on the App Store on Christmas Day, and that tells you what's been a popular gift this Christmas. And the MetaQuest app was number one, and it has. From what I understand, it's been at the number one spot for like the past several Christmases.
Yeah. The weird thing is,
David said, "Wow, a console sold more than an accessory to a console." Yeah, that's part of it, definitely.
well,
It's
I'm going to extend that point. This is a accessory to a console that a lot of people have not purchased yet, specifically the PS5. It doesn't work on a PS4 as far as I'm aware. And a lot of people are still waiting out the next or like the mid-generation update or a pro version of the PS5. There are a lot of people who just don't see a reason to get a PS5 until that next step up. So those people can't even get a PSVR 2, and nobody wanted to get a PSVR 1. That was not a particularly successful product. Whereas, yeah, if you get a Quest 2 or a Quest 3, they are just, but right now they are pretty much the version of Quest you should have.
Yeah, Sony does definitely have the issue where, like, there's basically the only thing going for PSVR is the fact that the games look really good because they have a full PlayStation. That's it. Like, It's more expensive. Like, I think how much does PSVR cost? Isn't it more than like the cost of a Quest 2?
Let's see. According to, oh, come on.
Go to Amazon.
Seriously, why is it
Amazon sells it for $550?
Yeah. Now to be,
God.
well, that's not even
So
being fair.
that's over twice the cost of a Quest 2 because Quest 2 is 250 now, and that is $50 more than a Quest 3.
Yeah.
And like again, there is like you can sell a product like based on like a more premium experience, but again, this is $550 plus you had to have spent however much a PS5 costs. I don't know what the lowest those have gone for.
Not even this much. Definitely.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, guy. Like there needs to be a cheap PSVR 2. Like make one with a shittier screen or something if you want to sell more. But yeah, like it is definitely part of it is price and part of it is just the like thing that Sega went through with their like I think it was the Genesis where they kept making add-ons for the Genesis and then they made games that require those, but then it's like then those games sell nothing because the barrier to entry is now you have to buy more than just the console.
Yeah.
Um
So, at
so
least,
like not surprising at all, but not what you want to hear if you're Sony
yeah.
or making PSVR games exclusively.
Okay, so the PS5 digital edition, this is the Slim, goes for $449. So combine these two, add up to almost exactly $1,000, and that's before you pick up a game. Now,
And
obviously,
tax.
but yeah, and tax if you haven't figured out how to cheat your way through those. But yeah, that again, that's before you even pick up a game. I would slightly counter argue that if you wait until any one of the several buying holidays, you're going to be able to get at least the PS5 on a discount. And I wouldn't be surprised if you can get the PS5 with PSVR 2 for some kind of a discount, especially in a bundle. But I imagine you can save probably a couple $100 on this, at least, maybe more.
You would imagine. I do see on my keep a price graph, it doesn't seem like it's ever gone on sale on Amazon, at least. The VR2, I should say, not the console.
Right. Now it is slightly notable. Okay, no. I was gonna say I'm betting that there's either currently or there will be a bundle of the PSVR 2 along with PS5, but we'll see. I guess I don't see one now. The only bundle I see includes Horizon Call of the Mountain, which is the DLC for Horizon's Forbidden West, I believe. Pretty sure that's the both parts. Anyway, that said, is Call of the Mountain a totally different game? Kind of looks like it might be.
I know nothing about this.
Really popular game on PlayStation. We'll just say that. Yeah, Call of the Mountain I think is just a whole different game. No connection to Forbidden West. That's kind of cool, actually. Anyway, and I guarantee that's what they're trying to sell this on. And on that note, according to the PlayStation site, there are a whopping 70 titles that are PSVR 2 compatible. And that's not bad, but when you factor in that, like, the list gets kind of bleak before you're past the first couple rows. I mean, some of these are some popular titles. Obviously, Job Simulator has some fans. No Man's Sky, Gran Turismo 7, Resident Evil Village, which, why? That was not that good of a game. But anyway, they've got a Star Wars title, Tetris Effect.
I have,
like, there are some good ones here, but
Yeah, I've played Job Simulator. It's good, but it's also like pretty old, so it's on all the VR stuff,
Yeah.
and same with Tetris Effect.
Um, and yeah, very quickly you start dropping down into um, a lot of beat-based games. It looks like a couple of goofy, sort of like what they didn't need to be in VR, but someone made VR maybe for fun, like Cave Digger 2 and whatever. Hello Neighbor is in VR. Okay. Um, so yeah, these are some of these are definitely not going to be titles anyone gets. They're the title you get when you've run out of everything else and you just need to keep justifying the presence of your PSVR. So though in slight counter fairness, PSVR 2 has only been out for 11 months. It came out February 22nd, 2023. So that's not, it's not terrible. 70 titles in 11 months is reasonable. But I'm guessing Quest 2 and 3 probably have way, way larger catalogs than this.
I don't know if well, in terms of like the official apps and games on the store, I don't know if it's like huge. There's a lot of junk on there. There's some games and apps that are so old that they're like still there, but like don't really work all that well, or they're not really supported. Like I know there was a Netflix app a long time ago, and that's gone. There's some other media apps that are gone now. But yeah, there is a lot of mainstream games. Meta's been trying to get exclusives. So like I just got Power Wash Simulator VR, which is a exclusive on the Quest. Quest also has it has Meta's social VR thing that's not that great. It has Rec Room. It has VR chat, which is huge. I don't think that's on any console VR. I don't think that was on PSVR 1 or 2, but VR chat is huge. So yeah, it's definitely like Quest is getting a lot more. It's definitely a little bit of a different market. Like there's fewer of those like quote unquote like big games on Quest, just because technically it's harder to do that. But those are slowly increasing. So I thought this report was interesting.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna throw a bit of a monkey wrench in here. This is the sales volume. Sales, great, obviously, and I think it's worth adding. I am sure that a huge number of the sales. Well, this specifically was for Amazon sales. Okay, I was gonna say I was betting that because Costco carries the Quest products, but I don't think it carries PSVR. I was thinking that Costco was going to be a part of this, but I guess not.
But retail, I'd love to know across all retailers, because I definitely know a lot of stores that have the Quests. Like I saw it in my Target. Every time I'm walking in there, it has a little end cap for those.
I wonder if there's a store out there that's like, man, it's so weird seeing numbers like this, because we sold tons of PSVR 2s and none of the Quest. That there might be that store out there.
It's just like Michael's PlayStation store. It's like I'm only selling PSVR, throwing off the data set.
But okay, but the monkey wrench I wanted to throw in here was not that. It's that I'd love to see what usage numbers look like 3 months later and 6 months later. Because while I don't know, I honestly don't know anybody who has a PSVR 2. I barely know anyone that had a PSVR 1. The thing is, of the people I know that have Quest devices, I'd say I can only think of I don't know, maybe like 10% that still use them.
Yeah.
Maybe 10%. I think it might be less than that.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people who bought them. I don't know a lot of people that kept using them after the first couple weeks, if they even made it that long.
Yeah.
I know some people who
It
tried to
definitely.
resell them and couldn't.
Well, I it's definitely an interesting thing where they are sort of consoles. So if you buy one and you play the games that are out that you care about, and there are no more, like you're not going to touch it again, probably. Um,
Unless you're all
but on
about
the other,
VR chat.
right, that's the other thing is like some of the games are like online social things that are very replayable, but it seems like Sony doesn't have VR chat as far as I know. I think they have Rec Room, but they don't have like I think Roblox is in VR, which I'm sure is huge. I don't think that's on Sony, but so I think that depends on you like being into one of those also if you have recurring use or if you use the apps on like the Quest a lot, and that's something that like just does not exist on Sony's thing. Um, like if you're doing like movie watching in bed on big VR screen or something. Um, but yeah, so that's where I would guess the breakdown comes from. Um, but yeah, I think it's interesting. I My Quest 2 is kind of cool, but I am really hoping someone else makes a real competitor. It's not going to be Apple because they don't really care about games, and also it's going to be like 10 years before there's a Vision headset that I can afford. Um, Maybe Google and Samsung's headset that they announced that we have almost no details about. That seems like the most direct competitor, possibly. But depends on how many games and apps get repackaged on there.
And I wouldn't totally write out Microsoft yet. Just because they've already tried a few experiments in VR and XR, I guess, or AR, whichever. Um, so they do have the skills in house, and they do have a console that could benefit from this. I feel like they might surprise us at some point, but we just haven't heard about them coming out or working on anything like this. So I guess wait and see. But yeah, I wouldn't discount the possibility that they'll pop up someday and suddenly that will be their next big thing. Um so yeah, though the thing is I just don't see this as that significant of a thing yet. Obviously it's a little concerning to see Meta planting its flag so much in VR, because I think we all know VR will still have some significance in it going forward. And I don't like seeing one company sort of owning that space so completely. But at the same time, there's room for others to come in and still push their way through. So I'm not
Yeah,
I'm not sure if this is
I,
something to worry about yet.
yeah, I really don't like that VR is so interconnected with Meta, but that's also a problem of like Meta being the only company who's like dumping money into this.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it they're paying for marketing for their console, which adds users, which makes it easier for the game devs to be profitable. And again, I wish it was someone else. Um, not just because Meta is shitty, but also like some of the like I have like 80% of the software on my Quest 2 is very impressive. Like I legitimately do not know how that can work on a glorified Android tablet. It's really cool to me. The other 20% doesn't fucking work. And it like in completely stupid ways. I have an open support ticket with Meta because I can't log in to some stuff on my headset, and I can't register my account as a developer account so I can sideload. So all those cool things I see on Reddit of people trying the cool sideloaded apps that aren't allowed in the Meta store, I can't try them yet because I can't uncheck the box because my account's fucked up. So I'm waiting for them to fix that, and that I don't think would be an issue if Google or Apple or anyone else made this. David said, I would like to see Steam remove the cables off their weird VR headset thing. They do have a wireless Steam Link app for Quest now that apparently works pretty good. I think I don't know if it was just that or if I saw someone else notice that they're updating like Steam VR to do something else. It does seem like Valve's next VR headset will probably be wireless, and they could just like sell a little like dongle or whatever you plug in with USB or something. Because like you could definitely do that over end to end like little Wi-Fi 6E or Wi-Fi 7. Like there's enough bandwidth for that, as long as there's not interference, which most areas wouldn't on the 6 gigahertz band. But I expect that'll probably happen soon. In the meantime, you can get Steam Link on a Quest and do that wireless.
Yeah.
And Meta also has its own desktop software that will do the wireless overlay, but I can't really try the wireless stuff because the internet connection to my gaming PC is kind of fucked up. So none of that works for me. So I have to use the cable until I like change my whole router modem stuff, and I don't really want to do that right now.
Right.
I love PCs. I love networking.
Oh, see, what you just need to do is have one of those backpack PCs that you can hang off of yourself while you walk around. Then you can be kind of cable free. Not even going to entertain that. Well, yeah, okay. So I don't think I have anything else on this. You?
Nope.
Okay, so
I think it's interesting. Would be nice to get data like this that's more conclusive, that isn't just Amazon.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know who would be winning if this had like physical retail store data. My assumption is that there are more stores with quests in them than PSVR because it's probably more of a high volume product and it's also smaller. A little bit. It's still a big box.
Yeah. So I do think that in practical terms, different stores probably have more balanced numbers. At least in certain cases. Like, I imagine if you were to go into a Target, I don't know that Target carries both. I assume it does.
I haven't seen. I don't go in the PlayStation section because there's nothing for me there. So I don't know. I have seen quests there though, because they're on the end cap.
Right. But I would be shocked if Target doesn't have at least a slightly more balanced output. I don't think that's enough to really shake up the numbers by significant percentages, but maybe they're pushing more like 5 or 7% PSVRs as opposed to the 3.2% that Amazon did. And how much does any given retail store make up of the total sales? For that matter, how much does Amazon make up of the total sales? We really don't actually know that either. I mean, if I know obviously this is just making up a random number, but if Amazon were to have only sold, let's say, 968 Quest units and and Amazon only sold 32 PSVRs, that happens to make these percentages make sense. If Target, however, were to have sold, let's say, 1,000 PSVRs, and sure, maybe they sold more Quest 2s, they could make up a larger percentage of the market. Do I think that happened? Hell no. I'm pretty sure Amazon is by far the biggest seller here, but you never know. But yeah, we may not be seeing what the actual relative numbers are very well. Also, I suppose it's worth calling out that there probably actually is a percentage of people buying direct from Sony, because if you're enough into Sony's ecosystem, you probably have like the Sony credit card, and so you're buying direct from them so that you get the points and all the extra rebates and all that stuff. Maybe.
I know for a while that was like the main way to get a PlayStation that wasn't scalped.
Yeah.
Sony was asking people to just buy it from them directly because the retailers weren't doing a good enough job on their own of preventing that.
Okay, I have never heard of anything like this, but I do wonder if maybe Sony could have sent out like discount coupons or something like that for people who, let's say, bought a PS5 direct from Sony to also get a PSVR 2 for cheaper. I don't follow the news enough, so I don't know if this would have been a thing, but maybe that could explain a higher sales number if there is one.
Yeah.
Also, I kind of wonder, now that this news has come out, because this came out yesterday, I wonder if somewhere in the next week or so, Sony's going to respond to this and say, oh, by the way, we actually sold X number of units. And it, kind of implying those numbers you've seen are not actually representative of what was sold. And we think we actually sold a higher percentage than what people think. Though Sony doesn't do response press releases very often, so
yeah,
kind of doubt I kind of doubt we're going to hear much of anything. All right. Anyway, want to talk Netflix and then we'll wrap.
Sure.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
Okay, so Netflix is giving the middle finger to people who enjoy the lowest cost ad-free plan. It's going away, people. And Corbin's gonna type. Okay, so yeah, if you are on the basic Netflix subscription that costs $12 per month, well, $11.99 for those of you who care about that extra penny, you're gonna have to go hunt for a new package. Okay, that was the extension I was going to give. Corbin, take it away.
Okay.
I haven't read this, so.
Oh my god.
Hey, I didn't have any time to read before this. There was stupid things happening at my employer.
Basically, the gist is that once upon a time, Netflix had their basic plan that did not have ads. That's the one that was like 720p only and like one screen, but it was I think it was $9.99 for a while.
Yeah, it's gone through a few price bumps.
Yeah, and then they stopped offering it, and then for the people who still had it, they've had access to it this whole time, but it now costs $12 a month. And is now worse in every way than the basic plan with ads, except for the fact that you don't see ads. Very clearly trying to push people to the ones with ads, or just pay a lot more for the non-basic plan. And Netflix had its quarterly earnings call, and they confirmed that they're going to start shutting down that plan. So even if it hasn't been offered for a while, like new people could not sign up for it, and the people who have it now will eventually lose access to it. They said they're going to start with Canada and the UK in the second quarter of this year, and then eventually everywhere, because that's how Netflix does things. They They'll try it in a couple of countries and then it'll show up everywhere.
Mm-hmm. So, Netflix has been experimenting with so many of these changes just over the last year, really. A few different account types have popped up, or well, not a few new ones per se, just one, I think. But they've been increasing prices. They obviously decided to do their crackdown on account sharing. They introduced, obviously, like the formal pay to share accounts thing, which obviously a lot of people not loving. Yeah, some part of me wonders if this is just a move to try to boost stock prices, by basically sort of telling people, sorry, but we're gonna just make you pay more. I can't make a lot of sense out of this other than they're just really trying to squeeze the last drops of water that they can from their existing subscribers.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix is up. I just checked 13% this past week, so the investors definitely like this. But yeah, it is like Netflix is definitely still exhibiting that really fun late stage capitalism where you completely dominated a market and you don't need to compete anymore because just everyone has a Netflix subscription by default, I guess. So your only hope now is to just extract as much money as you can from those customers. You are now Comcast with internet service. You don't have to worry about anything. You can just keep raising rates for as long as you want. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just not fun. Again, I've never paid for Netflix. My mom had an account that I'm pretty sure I can't access anymore because of the IP stuff. Don't really care. I haven't really looked at like mostly what's on Netflix these days. I've only seen a couple things that like I might care about. Just not really stuff that appeals to me. Maybe it does. Whoever's watching, if you like Netflix, that's great. But I'm okay just having the other stuff.
I've only used. I think I've only used Netflix maybe a handful of times. Just visiting like friends' places, and for whatever reason, it was pop on Netflix. But yeah, outside of the fact that it obviously has the best app out of all of them, or at least it seems to, because all the others are terrible. The quality of the content, I think, is still one of their sort of troubling issues. Netflix really relies on having like one really good thing coming out maybe per month. It seems like it's maybe every other month. And that's about it. I haven't seen a lot of signs that they can keep people really tuned into the service. But the thing is, just saying that, I'm too lazy to pull it up now, and I'm only just now thinking of it, but I saw a headline somewhere in the last couple of days that Netflix in the UK just had their largest boost of new subscribers or returning subscribers since the pandemic. So people are going to it, and obviously that's right before they just boosted prices again, or sorry, killed off this subscription is what I meant. But yeah, if they're, obviously if people are coming back, Netflix is not outpricing themselves out of the market. Like, they're not scaring too many people off, so they keep, dare I say, getting away with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely every time they have these investor reports, like their quarterly earnings, they go on and on about revenue per user, and ads are such an amazing way to boost that. And that's why they've been pushing people to the ads plans since they introduced them. Just because like it's so much money.
Oh yeah. Especially, one of the things, and obviously digging like this is one of the things. Obviously, they have the statistics. They don't share this kind of information with us, but you can factor in like how valuable is how valuable is it when we have people who are watching a lot of time during the month versus people who don't watch very much at all. And they're obviously trying to balance that to some extent. So you end up with obviously the people who just have Netflix and watch, let's say, a movie per week, and maybe like they're the one big TV show that comes along. For them, if they're paying their monthly fee, then Netflix is coming out pretty well with just that. But if there's somebody out there who's like, oh yeah, no, I watch 5 hours of Netflix every single day, and I'm doing it for the same, let's say $15 a month. Well, Netflix is happy to have you, but you're not really good for them. You're not profitable. So they'd rather have you watching ads. Because the more you watch, the more they make. So yeah, they do have an incentive to eventually try to push everyone possible over to ads, except of course for those minimal viewers. But then they don't care about, because that doesn't make up the majority, I imagine. Or maybe it does. We kind of don't know. They have the stats on that, but I think it's safe to assume that's probably how it works.
Well, and like what plays into that is absolutely in the past year, maybe 2 years, there's been a huge ramp up in streaming services trying to get into bundle deals. And that does play into the ads thing, because if I'm on T-Mobile and I have their plan that has Netflix, it's always the plans with ads, because it's cheaper for the carrier and whatever. So if I have a certain phone plan, I might automatically have Netflix with ads. But then it's like, if I already have Netflix with ads, if I'm paying for Netflix with ads, the difference in me paying is like, I don't know, $5. I don't know what the price delta is at this point. But if I'm getting free Netflix because of some bundle deal and it has ads, and I'm like, well, I like this, but can I get rid of the ads? Is now like, oh, the jump is now like $15 or whatever, the cheapest ad free. So it's like, why would I do that? I'll just watch ads. So I'm sure that's like part of the calculus there too that's working.
Yeah. It's incentivized at every position to try to get people onto the ad plans. Except of course, again, for those rare few people who only watch the smallest amount of stuff each month, they'd rather have them paying more. But that's less of an issue. And besides, a lot of those people probably can't get a much cheaper plan anyway. Even the ad plans aren't exactly, they're not free. They're cheaper, but they're not free, not by a long shot. So yeah, the incentive is there. Honestly, sometimes I'm surprised that like YouTube ever introduced YouTube Premium, because for people who watch a lot of YouTube Premium is like a killer deal.
Yeah.
And the amount that they pay out to creators is it's not huge, but for anyone who watches lots and lots of YouTube, the amount that they're paying into Premium gets very diluted very quickly.
Well, I don't know if they like split up. Google's not splitting up your like YouTube Premium ad money pool every month between the videos you watch. This is giving them like kind of close to what an ad does. And my understanding is like
that their calculus for it is complicated. But
I'm
yes,
sure
they
it's not
are
all
they are splitting it up, but yeah, it's not an even split. And it's not like if you paid for premium and watched just one video in the entire month, it's not like
that guy gets like $15 from one of you.
well, I could be wrong, but I think their split for premium was supposed to be like a 60-40. Might have that wrong. But
well, I did write about this like 3 months ago. I can.
oh, okay. But yeah, they are. It is supposed to be a split, but it's not. Yeah, it's not a balanced split, and obviously, yeah, they don't necessarily give away huge payouts based on like a single view or anything like that. But I've never heard what happens with the rest of that money, which is problematic. Anyway,
I was looking at this just support document. I don't think they have anything. Yeah, this is a very complicated table.
yeah, exactly.
They just say, I'll put this in the chat. They just say, will creators still be paid with YouTube Premium? Yes, in fact, YouTube Premium gives a secondary revenue stream for creators, in addition to what you're already earning today through ads. To earn YouTube Premium revenue for, and then it has just what you have to turn on ads. There was a different page that has like a more detailed. This is just like being eligible for making money on YouTube. It's not the cut.
Mm-hmm.
They have a page that says the cut, but they don't say specifically with YouTube Premium. They just say, it's 70. You get 70% from channel memberships and super chat and stuff, and then it's 55% of net revenue from ads. They don't say specifically premium, but
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So YouTube might be skimming off the top with this arrangement, but I still think that for the people who watch a ton of YouTube, oh wow, that what they're paying into premium has got to be really shaved down to the bare nothing.
The people who the people who subscribe to premium and watch like 3 videos a month, they're definitely subsidizing those people.
Or something to that effect, because and I know I've had my ups and downs with watching YouTube reliably, but generally speaking, I think the people that I subscribe to and watch are not getting a large chunk per video. Though I watch the same fairly short list of channels, so they're still making pretty good money off of me. It's just each video is probably not getting its fair share.
Right.
So, yeah, anyway, Netflix is kind of a jerk, but I honestly, I still go back to, I think that this is their way of trying to squeeze the stock price and obviously squeeze their customers. There's not much else to it. Can't wait to see them turn around and start reducing some of their higher plans. Like after this basic plan is gone, I can't wait to see them turn around and make some of the higher plans a little bit worse, so they're more similar to the basic plan, and then eventually someday they'll introduce like a even higher, like ultra tier that will be the good one to get, and it'll be basically their highest in tier now.
The super premium ultra Netflix is just the T-Mobile plan. Guys, I get ad-free Netflix and phone service.
Oof.
That's the add-on.
I could imagine it.
No, I'm sorry. Actually, what happens before then is every media company is allowed to merge. So then we just have the one app, and it costs $800 a month.
Wow, so still cheaper than cable.
Still cheaper than cable.
Oh,
There's like a new, there's like a Netflix box that has to go in your home and be plugged in.
per TV, yes. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But just to keep it interesting, you also, like once a week, have to order a DVD, have it sent to them, and then you send it back a week later.
Just for fun.
Just for funsies.
Just for fun, yeah.
Oh my god. They make it too easy. All right. Can you think of anything else?
I can think of, I need to go to the bathroom, so I'd like this to end.
And Daisy needs to as well. So,
Probably, yeah.
yeah. So with that, we're gonna wrap up on this one. Corbin, do you have anything else you'd like to pitch beyond the things you've pitched already, or
Nope.
just repitch them? I don't care.
No, if you want, you can give me money on Patreon.
And
I think it's patreon.com/ Corbin Davenport. So there you go.
And if you'd like to help support this channel, there are links down below to Streamlabs, Cash App, and Patreon. Huge thanks to those who already do, including David, Diablo, Carson, Austin, and Curvy Mermaid. And let's see, I should be back this weekend with gaming. You know, doing a little stumbling around with some Fall Guys, maybe some Overwatch, and yeah, that's kind of the plan. So, I hope you all have an excellent rest of the week. I will see you, if not this weekend, I'll see you next weekend, or sorry, next week for a little bit more of the, the good RambleCast times. But with that, I wish you all well, and good night, everybody.
Bye.